Hello, everyone. I would like to talk to you about chapter 16 of my book, The Long Road to Cullaville. Chapter 16 is the closing chapter. It is also an epilogue. It looks back at the book itself. It looks back at my travels. And it actually starts with my visit to my very last country, which was Ireland. Which I entered near the small town of Cullaville, which is just almost at the border and on the Northern Ireland side. After visiting Ireland, I was faced with a question that I didn't really wonder about before, and that was where to go next. For years, I had a very easy way to pick my next destination because I had an always decreasing list of countries where I hadn't been before. And suddenly the world was at my feet. I could go anywhere. I had nowhere that I should go. So the choice was a bit overwhelming. And for a long time, I imagined that I would finally travel to an easy country. I would probably travel to Italy, where I speak the language, where the food is great. It's just a few hours flight from my home. No time difference, no visa needed. You can pay with euros, which I can also use in my own country. So it sounded like a very comfortable and easy destination. And the thing with Italy is there's so much to see and do that you would never get bored or tired. But there was something lacking, and what was lacking was the sense of adventure that I was getting, that I had been getting used to. And then I stumbled upon a report of a couple who had been to Afghanistan independently, and I realized that Afghanistan actually was a country that I had visited only with my parents as a toddler. So somehow I felt like I could not really say that I'd been there. I had no pictures of Afghanistan other than the slides that my father took. So I decided to visit with my partner, Annika. I'm going to read a fragment which takes place in Bamiyan, the famous town where the Buddha statues once stood. The title of the chapter is Boom Boom Buddha. When we arrive at the spot where the statue's enormous feet once stood, I look up. There is a tangle of grey tubes, scaffolding, although no work is in progress. On the left side, I see an opening in the sandstone wall. That must have been the beginning of the staircase. Only fragments remain. After a few steps, it comes to an abrupt halt. Blown away. The dynamite has done its work ruthlessly well. My thoughts wander off to my parents. For years, my sister and I heard the stories of their honeymoon, which quickly assumed mythical proportions for us. How in their 20s they told their parents they were going to India for their honeymoon. How they hitchhiked through the Middle East. Had the craziest adventures and saw the most beautiful things along the way. How they were welcomed everywhere and finally flew back home via Moscow after half a year of traveling. There, nobody understood exactly what they had seen and experienced. They must have stood here as a young couple in love more than half a century earlier at the giant feet of the Buddha. At that time, they saw an immense statue towering above them, where now I only see metal tubes filling the void. I try to imagine how they walked up the stairs here, hand in hand. How they kissed each other halfway up. What they said to each other about that gigantic statue, probably the most impressive thing that they had seen on their journey. How could they have imagined that at that time that their son, who would have been born a few years later, would travel to every country in the world? That, more than a half a century later, he would be standing here, staring helplessly at the ruins of an ancient staircase which they climbed without even giving it a thought. How could they have imagined that one day that staircase and those statues would be destroyed? One of the stories of their amazing journey that impressed me the most was how they had lunch on top of the Buddha by cracking walnuts on the huge sandstone head. The shards of that head now lie swept together at the foot of the rock wall.